Hi, my name is Ron Landon. Today I will be giving my persuasive speech on bullying. In 2020, Jay Klein, author of the book Bullying, reports that in the United States, the Federal Bureau of Investigative reports 75% of school shootings are linked to bullying and harassment. Bullying is defined by Merriam-Webster as seeking to harm, intimidate, or coerce someone who is perceived as vulnerable. Most of us would characterize it as a persistent teasing, social exclusion, pushing, name-calling, assault, and sometimes more, going on sometimes for years. According to Foucher, Cassidy, and Jackson, authors from the book Sandbox to the Inbox, comparing the acts, impacts, and solutions of bullying in K through 12, higher education, and the workplace. The idea of teasing and roughhousing were considered normal parts of childhood until the 1990s, when school shootings and childhood suicides were studied, and bullying was determined to be one of the foremost causes of these events. As a psychology major, parent, and spouse of a middle school teacher, the psychology behind bullying is not only intriguing, but also concerns me. I have spent a great deal of time studying the topic of bullying and am familiar with the impact it has on the lives of those affected. Bullying is a serious public health concern faced by adolescent students around the world today. It frequently has a negative impact upon the victims' physical and mental health, as well as their ability to learn. Bullying is a complex problem that must be investigated from several angles and theories in order to be addressed. First, we will explore the problem of bullying and how labeling a child as a bully is counterproductive in terms of repairing the damage. Next, we will take a look at populations most likely to be bullied, which will show that we have a moral obligation to intervene in instances of bullying, as victims are often members of vulnerable populations. Finally, we will use the conflict perspective to examine how bullying helps to further the agenda of systemic oppression from an early age. To be clear, this means bullying is not just a kid's issue. To truly confront bullying, society must work to help a bully acknowledge the behavior and repair the harm they have caused, allowing them to redeem themselves. According to Leon Guerrero, 2019, the interactionist perspective focuses on how we use language, words, and symbols to create and maintain our social reality. Based on this theory, labeling students bullies or victims leads to the creation of problems because labels implies behavior is fixed and unlikely to change over time. Leon Guerrero goes on to explain that labeling leads to negative judgments, which in most cases does not lead to constructive behavior and limits understandings about the behaviors. Jing Wang, author of Bullying Among U.S. Adolescents, states experts in the fields are encouraging the language used to discuss bullying to be referred to as behaviors rather than identity. This is important because the behavior of students involved in bullying can change with education and family support. Now that we've talked about the importance of acknowledging bullying behavior, let's move on to the populations most likely to be bullied. Bullying is a widespread problem, and victims are often members of vulnerable populations. Based on the United States Department of Education and Bureau of Justice Statistics, demographics of students being bullied at schools and types of bullying 2015, between 25 and 33% of adolescents report being bullied at school, while 33% admit to bullying others, and 75% of the students surveyed report to having witnessed bullying taking place. This shows that bullying is so widespread that more people have witnessed or experienced bullying than not. The United States Department of Education and Bureau of Justice Statistics, demographics of students being bullied at school and types of bullying 2015 also states that members who have perceived disabilities who are targeted because of their weight are frequently the victims of bullying. Many define and label members of these communities as being different than the accepted way in which we define normal. The same Department of Education study shows black students were bullied most often. This is important because bullying can be seen as a contributing factor of systemic racism. To that end, the conflict perspective of psychological analysis can help us analyze how bullying influences power imbalances throughout adulthood. Foucher, Cassidy, and Jackson, authors of From the Sandbox to the Inbox, comparing the acts, impacts, and solutions of bullying in K through 12, higher education, and the workplace, state that bullying also fits in with the conflict perspective social linguists use to define the relationship between society and individuals and to describe the causes and consequences of social problems. Essentially, this shows that bullying is not just a kid problem, but an issue for society at large. Leon Guerrero, author of Bullying, states that the conflict perspective considers how society is held together by power and coercion from the benefits of those in power. Furthermore, Leon Guerrero states that, consistent with the conflict perspective, members of the LGBTQ community are often targeted by the bullies. Those who hold power, generally white males, will seek to oppress those different than themselves to retain their power. This is important because bullying behavior that goes on unaddressed in childhood leads to a continuation of this behavior as adults, exasperating inequality and serving as a barrier to progress. In conclusion, bullying is a serious problem that must be addressed through thoughtful intervention in a way that focuses on behavioral changes. Bullying is a complex problem that must be investigated from several angles and theories in order to be addressed. Research shows that labeling a child as a bully is counterproductive in the terms of repairing the damage. That being said, we have a moral obligation to intervene in instances of bullying, as victims are often members of vulnerable populations. What can we as adults do to address bullying? We start with accountability. If you are made aware of bullying issues, bring your concerns to the adults who are best able to handle the situation. Insist on a thorough investigation. Make sure to inquire about the restorative justice practices being employed for not just the victims, but also the bully. Remember, children are not bullies. They engage in bullying behavior. In order to stop this problem, we must focus on the fact that behavior can be changed and bullies can go on to help educate others. Thank you very much.